So as we continue our progression of developing leads, and I want to emphasize that lead development is the most basic skill. Well, the most basic skill is being able to use English properly in a class in journalism, in writing for mass media of any kind. You need to know how to prepare your article in plain English and in at least good English. And several of you know that you struggle with this, and there really isn't anything I can do about that, unfortunately. But you also cannot get an A or even a B when material is not written in basic good English. I don't mind if some words are misspelled occasionally, or if you're not using all of the articles, and if you don't know what an article is, such as a and the. You must insert articles in English in order for it to make sense. And if you don't understand that, first, it's your responsibility to understand that. Secondly, it's your responsibility to acquire that skill. And third, Gust helps you acquire that skill for free by utilizing the tutors. So enough said about that, other than this class only gets more difficult as we write. As we start writing, and I grade you on writing. If you can't do it in basic English, you're going to continue to lose a significant amount of points. And that's not going to help your grade or your grade point average. In many cases, people are better off dropping a class like this and going and working with a tutor for a period of time and then come back to a writing class. But that's entirely up to you. Nonetheless, I'm not going to give you extra grades just because you tried or just because you went to public school. It doesn't matter. There are students in the class who have really pretty good English, and I have to award that, and I have to be fair to people. But beyond that use of basic English, lead generation, writing a lead, creating a really good lead is a basic skill in writing for all of the media. If you can't create a lead, then again, you can't get a very good grade, but you won't progress very far as a writer for media. And based on what we did yesterday, where I asked you to write just one sentence, and if you wanted to write two, you could, but you only had to write one sentence, and yet several of you wrote three, and one person wrote four. Why? Why did you do that? Why not just write one sentence? That was the instruction. And you could write two if you wanted to, but it would be better to write one really good sentence than to write two and to lose points instead. And the emphasis was on writing a lead using some facts that I gave you more than once. Purposely, I gave you the facts more than once, and I told you more than once to take notes. Write the facts on a piece of paper. Recording it in your phone is not going to help you. If you want to take notes in your computer in a Word document, that does help you, and I would encourage that over writing in longhand. But some of you did none of that. You just, I guess, sort of relied on what you had heard, and so you created information in some cases. I sent you a list of the leads that were written by students in the class, and you'll see that some of the information wasn't true, didn't happen. Well, that's the quickest way for a journalist to get fired and to lose credibility, when you create information that wasn't true. You add information to a story, even though it might sound reasonable to you, such as the trainer went to the shop in a car. You don't know that. That was not part of the facts. All we know is that the trainer went to the shop. We don't even know what kind of shop it was. So in some cases, people did more than they were supposed to do. You don't get awarded for doing extra work when it's not good work. You should have done exactly what you were asked to do, one sentence in this case, and then you've got to use the facts. And if you remember, I told you, I didn't say this in the video, but I put it on the board. So if you weren't in class, again, this is your loss. It's important to be in class, and in some cases you can make up when you miss a class, either meet with one of your colleagues to find out what we covered, or if I have a video that covers that information, that will at least help you. I told you that your job as the writer, as the journalist, is to lead the reader, to guide the reader, to inform the reader. Your job is to create a story that shows the reader what the story is about. And you do that by using the most important information first. And again, I emphasized this in class on a couple of occasions. I did a couple of videos about the inverted pyramid. I explained to you the most important information goes at the beginning. You begin with the most important information. Yesterday, in the facts that I gave you where the man was killed yesterday is not the most important information, and yet some of you started with the word yesterday. Why would you do that? You begin with what was most important. Also, you've got to know the difference, and I'm a little more sympathetic here. If you don't know that mauled, what that means, it doesn't necessarily mean someone was killed if they were mauled. But if you don't say that they were killed when they were killed, and you just say they were mauled, you didn't report the facts. The man was killed. And in fact, the perfect lead to this, the most important information, is that an unnamed Kuwaiti man was mauled and killed, or at least an unnamed Kuwaiti man was killed. And that's the most important information, and that's what you have to begin with. The fact that he was unnamed is critically important to the story, because your job is to lead the reader, guide the reader, inform the reader. And readers want to know when they read news, who was the man who was killed? And in this case, he was unnamed, and it was important to say that, and yet hardly anyone did. Which leads me to believe that you don't understand what unnamed means, or you didn't think that was important for some reason. But so I'm a little more sympathetic to that. I want to make sure that you understand that unnamed was important to include. Also, this was his pet, lioness, and it was not a lion. There's a difference between a male and a female. And so again, you reported inaccurate information if you said lion. It was a lioness. And also, it was his pet. So why would that be important? In some cases, it sounded like wild lions were running loose in Saudi Arabia and killing people. And of course, that would be wrong to mislead the public to believe that there's any danger in Saudi Arabia with wild lions. That's not the case. So when you create information, or you don't use all of the information that you're given, provided that it's important, you mislead the reader. And your job is never to mislead the reader. Your job is to guide, to inform, to lead the reader to understand what a story is about. And unfortunately, for most of you in class yesterday, that did not happen. And so you got a much lower grade than perhaps you would like, and certainly a lower grade than I would like to award. But this is the way it goes. You've got to be able to do something like this, writing a lead perfectly. This is not something that we can say, well, okay, you didn't quite get this skill, we can move on. You really won't be able to move on if you don't master lead development. If you don't master how to write a good basic lead, you're going to have a tremendous amount of problems, not only moving forward in this class, but in moving forward in other classes that require you to use writing. So I hope you'll take this information seriously, and I hope you'll do something about it.